Say hello to the Dragon Hunter, quite possibly the most powerful archer in all of Skyrim, and a build that will manhandle any dragon it comes across. If you want to feel like a god while playing on legendary difficulty, then this is the build for you. All of the footage you are watching is on the legendary difficulty setting, and you will see just how deadly this character is, being able to halve the health of an elder dragon in a single shot. In addition, this has been done without any glitches or exploits. I know that there are ways to make everything a one-hit kill through these methods, but I like to keep these builds legit, and quite frankly, this guy doesn't need to be any stronger. As always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and consider sharing it too. It really helps out the channel. The Dragon Hunter is a Breton who was born and raised in a cabin in the woods. He lived a peaceful life with his family. They lived off the land, and the Dragon Hunter used his natural talent with a bow to hunt and provide for the rest of them. The downside of living a fruitful life is that it attracted a group of bandits to their homestead. The Dragon Hunter's father was a firm pacifist who refused to fight against the bandits, instead giving in to their demands. Seeing an easy target who they could exploit, the bandits began regularly visiting and taking whatever they wanted. On one such occasion, a member of the bandit gang decided to drag away the Dragon Hunter's sister whilst the others were searching the house for valuables. A couple of minutes passed before the bandit returned alone, and gestured for them to all leave. When the bandits were gone, the young Breton looked for his sister, and was greeted with a terrible sight. She was laying lifeless on the cold ground, her clothes torn and bruising round her neck. It looked like she had fought against the bandit, and he in turn had choked her, breaking her windpipe and ensuring her death. The Dragon Hunter was grief-stricken by this sight until his father appeared. Through tear-filled eyes, he explained that this is why they couldn't fight against the bandits, and should always just do as they said. Angered with the man's weakness, the Breton child gathered his bow and arrows, and headed in the direction the bandits had left. It didn't take him long to find their camp, and he waited patiently for the man who had ended his sister's life to appear. When he saw the individual appear forth from a tent, rage consumed him, and all he could picture was his sibling's lifeless body. He nocked an arrow, and without hesitation let it fly towards the man, impacting in the back of his head and killing him almost instantly. Before the bandits were aware of what was happening, he silently walked back to his home. Upon his return, he pretended that he had been out hunting to calm himself, but he hadn't been able to catch anything. With his excuse out of the way, he went to bed to get what little sleep he could. He is not able to rest for long before he wakes to the sound of screams and splintering wood. Glancing out of his window, he sees his parents being dragged out and blades placed against their necks. One of the bandits steps forward and bellows forth that they know that he killed one of their own and has to pay in blood, be it his own or that of his parents. Instead of giving himself up, he picks up his bow and surveys the scene as best as he can. There were only 5 bandits in total, 2 holding his parents hostage, 2 behind them, and the leader at the front. He nocked an arrow and took a deep breath, calming his shaking body and readying the rest of his arrows. At this point, the bandits are getting restless, waiting for an answer. The leader isn't sure if the boy is still asleep or just refusing to come out. As he is working out if he should just search through the house, he sees 2 arrows fly either side of him in quick succession. Turning to either side, he sees that both of his hostage takers have an arrow protruding from their skulls. He raises his sword and begins to bellow forth a war cry, but the words don't seem to come out. Looking down, he sees that an arrow has buried itself into his chest, piercing his lung. He falls forward, dying before he even hits the ground. With over half the bandits gone, the remaining 2 begin to flee. The Dragon Hunter isn't accepting this though, and lets another arrow loose, catching a bandit in the leg and preventing them from getting away. The other bandit has made good distance by this point, so he takes time with his shot, measuring the flight path before calmly drawing the string and letting the arrow curve through the sky, descending towards the fleeing man. The bandit turns just in time to see the blurred shape of an arrow impact into his eye, piercing all the way through his brain and shattering the back of his skull. At this point, the Dragon Hunter leaves the safety of his house and slowly walks towards the wounded bandit. She has tears flowing down her face and is grasping her leg in pain, obviously wanting to pull out the arrow but lacking the strength to remove it herself. Despite only being young, the figure of the Dragon Hunter seems to loom over her. The young man looks down at the bandit, taking in every detail of her face, from the bags under her eyes to the dusty brown colour of her hair. Without a word, he nocks an arrow on his bow and pulls back the string, feeling the soft feather of the fletching brush against his cheek. The woman begs and pleads with him to spare her life, offering anything for a second chance. The dragon hunter's face remains devoid of any emotion as he releases the taut string, ending the woman's life in an instant. Despite his parents remaining unharmed during this event, his father was outraged with his son's behaviour and banished him from their home, disowning him and ordering him to never return. Despite this demand, the dragon hunter stayed behind long enough to bury his sister, digging a grave away from the bloodshed of the fight and wishing her a final farewell before he departs forever. Over the years he will travel all over Tamriel, but never forms strong bonds with anyone he meets, keeping himself to himself and eventually finding his way to the border of Skyrim. The main skills of this build are Archery, Enchanting and Smithing. The Dragon Hunter is an insanely powerful archer, so obviously you will want the Archery skill to be as high as possible. I only had my Archery in the mid-80s by the time I finished playtesting, so the character can deal even more damage when I show him the footage, but to maximise the damage output, you will want all of the ranks of Overdraw. In addition, I highly recommend taking Power Shot, Hunter's Discipline, Ranger and Quick Shot. These perks make you all round so much more deadly with a bow, and Hunter's Discipline ensures you don't run out of arrows too often. Enchanting is essential for this character to be as powerful as it can be. As always, you will want to go up the middle skill tree to get extra effect, and get all 5 ranks of Enchanter to double the power of enchantments. Make yourself a crafting suit with Fortified Smithing and Alchemy for whenever you do crafting to get the best possible bonuses. Smithing will need to be at 100 for you to get the Dragon Armour perk, which will let you create your bow and your arrows. In addition, it will let you significantly improve the quality of your bow to max out its damage. I would recommend going up the left side of a tree, purely because it requires less perk investment. You only need the final perk, so the rest of the time this skill has little use to you, but it is essential for the build to ultimately work as well as it does. The additional skills are Alteration, Sneak and Alchemy. Alteration works incredibly well for this build, as you don't wear any armour. If you get the Mage Armour perks and cast flesh spells, then you can give yourself a half decent armour rating whilst keeping all the benefits of wearing a full set of clothing. In addition, the magic resistance perks are great for any character playing on legendary difficulty. The Sneak skill helps you to play as a powerful stealth archer. The crucial perk in this tree is Deadly Aim, which will triple the damage you deal with your bow while hidden. A lot of the perks aren't that necessary, as the character is already quite stealthy, thanks to the lack of armour, but the stealth perk is always a worthwhile investment. Last of all is Alchemy. This is my favourite crafted perk, and helps the character in so many different ways. Use a smithing potion before you improve your bow, and an enchanting potion before you enchant your equipment. If you want to deal some more damage, then take a fortified marksman potion, and if you want to remain hidden, then use a potion of fortified sneak or invisibility. As always, I'll leave some different potion recipes in the description for some of the best potions to use for this build. When distributing level ups for this character, I advise going 40% Magika, 40% stamina, and 20% health. As time goes on, reduce the amount of Magika you are raising, as you won't need a huge Magika pool, and also start to lower stamina every once in a while too. As a standing stone for this build, I would recommend the Atronach stone. It will give you a 50 point boost to your Magika, and also gives you some spell absorption. It does reduce your Magika regen, but this character doesn't need to worry about that all that much. For powers to use, there isn't anything specific you will need. Throw Voice is good for going through dungeons stealthily, and Slow Time is insanely powerful with an archer. But ultimately, just use whatever helps you most based off of the situation. As this build is designed on legendary difficulty, I would recommend getting the Agent of Mara Blessing by completing the Book of Love quest for an extra 15% magic resistance. The great thing about this quest is that you can complete it really early on, meaning you can get 40% magic resistance before you even hit level 10. The Dragon Hunter wields a Dragonbone bow enchanted with shock damage and magicka damage. If you can deplete a dragon's magicka, then it can no longer fly, letting you get in easy shots against it and not waste your valuable arrows. At this point, I should mention that you will want to use your Dragonbone arrows against tough enemies to get your maximum damage output. These need to be forged with Dragonbones and firewood, and you will be severely limited on the number you have, so be careful with them and don't waste them on low level bandits or other enemies that aren't a major risk to you. The Dragon Hunter wears Mourner's clothes and the Mourner's hat, gloves and boots. In addition, wear a ring and necklace. This combination gives a really nice look to it, but will leave you with no armor rating most of the time, making you incredibly vulnerable to normal damage if you aren't using flesh spells, so be aware of where your enemies are so that they can't hit you. For enchantments on your clothes, you want to focus on Fortify Marksman and Sneak as your main 2 enchantments to put on your gear, but I also recommend Fortify Alteration to be able to dual cast Ebony Flesh without having to sink too many additional points into Magika. Side with the blades and follow the main quest line. The Dragon Hunter is a secretive guy who won't want people to know much about him, so he will avoid joining too many different factions. You may wish to join the College of Winterhold, however, for easy access to an Alteration trainer who is also a merchant, and so you can easily buy soul gems. Don't use any followers with this build. All they will do is get in the way and alert enemies to your presence. Early on you may wish to have a companion with you to tank some damage, but once you have half decent stealth, get rid of them. The Dragon Hunter is an insanely powerful glass cannon archer with strong magic defense but next to no armor rating, so it will offer a mix of tense gameplay and feeling like an unstoppable god. As long as you aren't being hit by physical attacks, you will feel indestructible, but as soon as you take an arrow to the chest or a sword blow to the face, you suddenly remember how vulnerable you can be. Obviously you can dual cast Ebony Flesh and get an armor rating of up to 300, but even this won't keep you alive forever. Fortunately you have an incredible magic resistance thanks to the combination of being a Breton, completing the Book of Love quest and investing in the magic resistance perks, not to mention the added bonus of the Atronach Stone. Take a potion of Resist Frost and Fire and you can stand in the middle of a dragon's attack and barely notice a thing. Don't let them get too close though, as they can kill you in one bite if you let them. When playing as this build, I recommend actively hunting down dragons. Not only does the Dragon Hunter feel a desire to do this, it also makes sense for gameplay purposes. Killing dragons gets you dragon souls to unlock any shouts you want, and provides you with a good supply of dragon bones so that you can craft plenty of arrows. If you enjoyed this build, then please subscribe to the channel and leave a like too. Consider sharing this video as well. It helps the channel to grow, and the more shares that a video gets, the more likely I am to make similar ones to it. If you are planning on playing as this build, then let me know how it goes for you. This is actually one of the characters I may go back to at some point, as I have had great fun playing it, more so than I do with most builds. Thank you all for watching, and I wish you all the best in your journey.